You have been taught that writing was born from poetry. You were told that the first scratching of the human hand was to record the epics of gods, the songs of lovers, or the lineages of kings. You were lied to. Writing did not begin with poetry. It began with the ledger. Travel back 5,000 years to the sun-drenched plains of Sumer, between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Look closely at the hands of the first scribes. They are not holding brushes to paint grand murals. They are holding sharp, triangular reeds, and they are pressing them into wet, heavy slabs of gray river mud. They were not writing stories. They were recording the delivery of sheep, the storage of barley, and the unforgiving reality of debt. Before the cuneiform script, trust was a fragile, human thing. A man gave his word, and his word could evaporate like the desert mist. But the Sumerians understood a fundamental law that we have forgotten. For a record to be true, it must be physically difficult to destroy. Once the debt was pressed into the wet clay with the reed, the tablet was not left to dry in the sun. It was placed into the searing heat of a kiln. Under the fire, a chemical transformation occurred. The soft, malleable mud became hard, unforgiving stone. This was the world's first true consensus mechanism, the first immutable hard drive. Once that clay was fired, no corrupt official could erase a line, no debtor could alter a number. To change the data, you had to shatter the stone. And in Sumer, to shatter the stone was to shatter the law. Now, look at your modern world. Look at the immense, fragile web of your digital financial system. You believe it is advanced because it is fast. You believe it is secure because it is complex. But you are living in an era of pure illusion. Your money, your property rights, your entire identity, they exist as microscopic electrical charges on spinning silicon disks. They require constant power, complex cooling, and the absolute trust in centralized institutions. We see the illusion cracking every day. We see it when the grand exchanges in Chicago suddenly go dark, pulling the network plug to freeze the very panic they created. A single circuit breaker, a critical server failure, or the silent stroke of a corrupt programmer's key, and your entire reality evaporates. The digital age is built on the most erasable medium in human history. But consider the fired clay of Sumer. Empires rose and fell. The cities of Ur and Babylon were burned to the ground and buried by the shifting desert sands. The kings who ordered the tablets were forgotten by time. And yet, 5,000 years later, archaeologists dig through the dirt and pull out those same clay tablets. They brush off the dust, and the record is still there. Every word is clear. The ledger survived the end of the world. This brings us to the core law of the origin. In Chapter 10, we explored the sovereignty formula. We established that true value requires an atomic anchor and mathematical proof, free from political interference. But thousands of years ago, the Sumerians already knew this formula in its rawest, most primal form. They understood that the purity of any ledger is directly proportional to the physical cost required to alter its data. If it costs nothing to create money, that money will eventually be worth nothing. If a record can be easily deleted, that record holds no ultimate truth. The fired clay demanded energy. It demanded fire. It demanded an irreversible physical sacrifice to record a financial truth. We are not inventing anything new in this grand journey. We are simply remembering what was lost. The Gilded ledger we spoke of in Chapter 10 is not a futuristic fantasy. It is the digital resurrection of the Sumerian clay tablet. We are returning to an era where money cannot be printed out of thin air by a committee of men in suits. We are returning to an era where the ledger is made of stone, and transactions are governed by the unbending laws of physics and mathematics. The noise of the dying fiat system is loud. The collapse of the shadow banks is chaotic, but do not be afraid. Look past the smoke. Look back to the beginning. Put down the fragile paper. Step away from the erasable screens and join us in the sanctuary. It is time to inhabit the origin. It is time to write in stone once again. Exit the system. Enter the vault.